Hi, Matt Rosenthal, the CEO of Mindcore. This week, I want to speak with you about project failure and how to avoid it. Project failure is something that can happen to anybody. It can happen to any organization, can happen to you in any position that you're holding. Doesn't matter whether you're the one running the project. At the end of the day, project failure can happen to anyone. Three things essentially make up the core of a project, right? It's called a triple threat. So number one is the budget. Number two is the schedule. And number three is the scope. If something out of scope begins to impact your project, or the scope of your project begins to feel like it's getting out of hand, you have to identify that, right? Same thing with the budget, and the same thing with the schedule. One of the other really important things that's actually not considered part of the triple threat is communications, right? So in any project that you're working on or that you have been a part of or experienced, you know how important communications is. It's critical that everybody remains in alignment and that the human element is really focused on. It's something that's oftentimes overlooked, and we'll talk more about that later, but again, not part of the triple threat, but extremely, extremely important. And overlooking communications or the human part of the project, the team, can absolutely be a big part of leading to failure. So when is a project actually a failure? The rule of thumb is when you feel like it's in trouble. Let me read you something. It's too long to remember, but let me read you something that I thought was really interesting, which I picked up off of the PMI website. And PMI is a Project Management Institute, and that institute is an internationally recognized body that kind of oversees and governs those people like me who are certified project managers, and you adhere to certain methodology and certain ways of managing and handling projects. They put a couple of interesting stories up on their website, and I want to share these with you. Troubled projects carry a high cost, both to your organization and by association to you and other key executives. So here's a good story. Nike shares tumbled 20% upon news that their i2 technology supply chain project was in trouble. As a result, Nike lost $100 million in orders because the system wasn't up and running. Could that be something that happens to you? Nike's a big company, but circling back to the triple threat, something in there failed, and somebody did not recognize that failure early enough. Another example, former CIO of the state of Maine was replaced after overseeing the implementation of Maine's Medicaid claims systems project. The system was so flawed that it erroneously rejected the claims of 262,000 Medicaid recipients and forced countless doctors and dentists to close their doors or to take out loans. It's crazy, they had to take out loans while the system was being fixed. The project, originally estimated to cost $15 million, ended up climbing to $30 million. Take a guess where the CIO of that organization is. He ended up managing the local YMCA. Those are two powerful examples that are very large-scale organizations, but at the end of the day, somebody there did not recognize that there was a project in trouble and failed to put a system in place to recover the project. So what I have behind me, and what I want to take you through today, is how to avoid project failure and 5 very important things that you should keep in mind. Again, it can happen to anyone, so whether you are the one running the project, whether it's a project that's happening in your company and you're the owner of the company, or you're a leader in the company, or you're a manager, these are very important things to remember. At the very least, you could certainly raise your hand and make a recommendation to somebody. You could send somebody an email. You could pull somebody aside. Trust me when I tell you, look, I've been on the failure side of a project. All of us, everybody, anybody who's ran a project or run a project at some point has had varying degrees of project failures. So it's important that we learn from them. And so for me to be able to pass this information along to you, I feel is very valuable, because I've been on the receiving end of these failures, and I don't want it to happen to you. I really don't. So let me tell you, the first thing that you can do, I hope you can see this, I got some feedback last video that you couldn't see this. The first thing that you can do is determine the actual status. Determine that you're actually in trouble. Okay? Stop. Think about the triple threat. Think about where you are in the project cycle. Do whatever you can to communicate to whoever it is that you need to communicate to that you think the project is in trouble. I'm sure that everybody on the project team would really, really appreciate that feedback. It doesn't matter if it's true or not true. What matters is that there's a sense that something's not right. There's a sense that we should stop, we should talk, and better that you take that precaution than to not do anything. So step number one is determine that you're in trouble. Once you determine that, and let's, for the purposes of getting through these, assume that you are in trouble and that there's been a determination. The second thing you want to do is determine what you need to change. Okay? You're going to need to change either the people on the project, the product or service, or a combination of both of those. But something's going to need to change to get the project back on track. Okay? Again, you want to recover the project. You want to stop the failure from actually reaching the end point where it actually becomes a true failure. Next thing you're going to do is define the project recovery charter. Let me get out of the way here. The project recovery charter and mission. So essentially what that means is, look, when you first start a project, before you start it, the first thing you're going to do is you're going to determine what the purpose of the project is, right? What's the scope of the project? What problems is this project going to solve? Then once that's determined, of course there's a budget put to it, there's approval behind it, and the team comes together. But at the outset, it begins with a mission and it begins with a purpose, okay? You're going to have to go back and you're going to have to redo this at this point, because the fact that the project is in trouble means that you kind of have to hit the reset button, reestablish the purpose, reestablish a charter, reestablish the mission, and at this point, part of the mission, or the mission wholly, might be just to recover the project. To potentially, it could be just to minimize the losses at this point, or it could be that it was determined early enough that the project is in trouble, hasn't gotten that far, and the reestablishing of the mission and of the charter and of the purpose is, okay, let's get it back on track, didn't go too far off, we're okay, and a change in people. Maybe it's a matter of changing the project manager. Maybe it's a matter of changing an engineer. It depends on what's happening in your project. Or it could be that, whoa, geez, we realized this is actually not the right service. Even though we did all the due diligence and we kind of thought we had this right, not the right product. Or you're so far down the line that you know it's not the right product. As part of reestablishing this charter and this mission, you got to go out and get a new product. You got to find out what product is really going to solve the problem. Okay? Number 4 is conduct the actual assessment. So now that you have a recovery project manager in place, which is called an RPM, could be the original project manager. I don't recommend that you do that because it's the original project manager that kind of got you into trouble in the first place. So what I would say is have the original project manager and project team working with a recovery project manager now, somebody that's brought in to kind of look at it from a new set of lenses and see if they can get it back on track. I would not recommend that you use the same project manager that kind of got you off track, though. It's symptomatic of potentially having the problem occur again. So the recovery project manager is going to conduct the actual assessment, which is what's the status, and this is a very, very, very in-depth process that could take days or weeks. But what's the status of the project? What are the threats that are facing the project? The team, all right, do we have the right team? Do we need to adjust the team? That's got to be assessed. And gathering data. Okay, your project, I am going to assume, was done in a way where there was a system in place, some sort of project management system where you were tracking project tasks, you were tracking milestones, deliverables, dependencies, contingencies. All of this is in a system. That data needs to be revisited, needs to be analyzed, and probably needs to be changed. Okay, because if you're going to redefine the mission and go back to the charter, you're probably going to have to take the data that you're gathering and create a recovery project, which is going to be a little bit different or drastically different than the original project. Again, depends on the severity of how bad the project got. Once you have all that information, once you've got the information from your assessment, what you do with that is you put a new plan in place. So the 5th step is put a recovery plan in place. If you've chosen the right project manager, recovery project manager, putting the recovery project in place should be pretty smooth. The execution of that at this point should be a success, and the issues that you experience early on, they'll be avoided. They'll definitely be avoided. Okay, so what's the goal? The goal is to recover. Look, how do you avoid all of this in the first place? Make sure that you've got a project manager that knows what they're doing. If you're that project manager, there is no shame in reaching out to people that have tremendous amounts of project experience and getting bouncing some ideas off of people, off of your trusted advisors. The potential for the cost, not just in actual money, but the cost in people and the team's morale and all of these combination of things that can really spiral downward. You really got to get in front of it. You really got to make sure you've got a solid project team. It's funny because I was thinking a few weeks ago I was thinking back, like, God, how many hours do I have in the IT business, and specifically on projects? I sat down, backed into it, and this is an underestimate because I'm pretty sure it's more than this. I have 100,000 hours of time on projects. That's a combination of going back many years being a technician, an engineer, then advancing into the role of being a project manager, and obviously many years later going into to business and managing successful projects and projects that have had project failures and problems along the way. I have 100,000 hours of project management experience, okay? Get somebody like that. Use a resource. Contact somebody that's got that kind of experience, because there's a lot to be said for having that experience. There's a lot to be said for whether you are an accountant, a lawyer, a doctor, an engineer. You reach a point where you know, like there's a feeling like, oh yeah, you know what, something's not right here, or I think we should do this. And you might not even be able to explain exactly why you feel that way, but you just know that gut instinct is your mind telling you that you've had some experience and there's something you're remembering that just like, you know what, there's just some instinct. That's because you have 100,000 hours, because you have 200,000 hours, and you just know. So my recommendation to you is line up with an IT provider, line up with a professional. If you are that professional, then no harm, no shame in leaning on and leveraging other professionals outside of your immediate organization. It's all about success. Avoid the project failure. I'm here for you. If you'd like any advice, if you'd like to run anything by me, feel free to shoot me a message. Please let me know if this video has been helpful to you. Maybe even more important, please share your comments and your stories. The last few videos that I've put out, I've had some unbelievable feedback from all of you out there. And I gotta tell you, it's so cool to read and to engage and to have that back and forth dialogue where the content that I'm putting out here is actually inspiring you to really think, to remember things that have happened to you, to tell stories. It's really cool. I'm having a lot of fun with it. And look, my job is to bring you value. My job is to deliver any information that I can that is going to help you be more successful in IT. And as you know, I talk about a variety of other things, so it's not just IT. I want to help you be successful. I want to be there for you. And listen, have a great day. Have a great week. Watch out for other videos that I'm putting out. And again, please engage. Please leave comments. Please share these videos. Let's help as many people as we can together, all right? Have a great week. Thank you.